Evet, herkese merhaba. MEXT Sürdürülebilirlik Hizmetleri Webinar Serisi'ne hoş geldiniz. Yıl boyunca 2 haftada bir salı günleri sürdürülebilirlik konusunda önde gelen kurumlar ile gelişmeleri konuşacak bilgi alışverişi yapacağız. Sürdürülebilirlik dönüşümünde işbirliğini ve amaçlar için ortak adımları oldukça önemsiyoruz. Hem yerel hem global kuruluşların regülasyonlar ve müşteri beklentileri ile şekillenen yaklaşımlarını kendilerinden dinlemenin oldukça faydalı olacağını öngörüyoruz. Ben Yusuf Turan, MEXT Sürdürülebilirlik Hizmetlerinde görev alıyorum. Geçtiğimiz 3 yılda 200'e yakın firmanın sürdürülebilirlik dönüşümünde ekibimle birlikte rol aldım. 2023 yılında dijital dönüşüm sürdürülebilirliği mümkün kılar mottosunuyla çıktığımız yolda üretim sektörünün tüm dikeylerine dokunduk. Global ana sanayiden mikro KOBİ'lere kadar 200'den fazla firmanın sürdürülebilirlik ihtiyaçlarını bizzat sahada sunduğumuz danışmanlıklar ile karşıladık. Ülke çapında ses getiren projeler ile sahadan önemli içgörüler elde ettik ve hizmetlerimizi sahada gördüğümüz ihtiyaçlara dikkate alarak genişlettik. Kurumsal ve ürün karbon ayak izi hesaplama, ACA ve GRI standartlarında sürdürülebilirlik raporlama gibi kurumsal hizmetler ile enerji ve su verimliliği operasyonel hizmetleri hizmet kataloglarımızda yer alıyor. Bize her zaman bu ihtiyaçlarınız için ulaşabilirsiniz. Dünya Ekonomik Forumu tarafından desteklenen Consumer Sustainability Industry Readiness Index yani COSIRI metodolojisi ile 150'den fazla firmanın sürdürülebilirlik konusunda mevcut durumunun olgunluk analizini yaptık ve yol haritası hazırladık. Bunun dışında da 50 tane firmanın az önce de bahsettiğim sürdürülebilirlik konusundaki ihtiyaçlarını karşıladık. KOBİ'lere TÜBİTAK 1831 Yeşil İnovasyon Mentörlük, daha büyük şirketlere ise Turquality Responsible, Sanayi Bakanlığı Yeşil Dönüşüm Destek Programları kapsamında bu danışmanlık hizmetlerimizi teşvik paketlerinden de yararlandırıyoruz ve uygun maliyetlerle hizmetlerimizi bu konuda sanayimize sunuyoruz. Bugün aramızda University of Cambridge'in Cambridge IfM Sustainability yaklaşımı var. Bu da bizim sahada önemli gördüğümüz, ihtiyacını duyduğumuz hizmetlerden biri. Çünkü biz üretim dünyasında sürdürülebilirlik dönüşümünün hızının tüm departmanların aynı hizada, aynı kararlılıkta ilerlememesi olduğunu birazcık hissediyoruz. Bu hedefler de çoğu zaman işletmenin temel iş hedeflerinden kopuk olması ve uzak algılanması nedeniyle oluyor. Fabrika çalışanlarının gündemine tam olarak giremiyor. İşte Sustainate programı da tam bu noktada devreye giriyor ve yönetimin hedefleriyle üretimin günlük gerçekliğini aynı köprüde buluşturuyor. Metodolojinin başarısı aslında üç temel prensibe dayanıyor. Birincisi sürdürülebilirliği daha basit bir şekilde ele alıp fabrikaya özgü kritik temalar seçiliyor. İşte bu enerji, malzeme, su, hurda yönetimi, rework gibi konular çalışanların artık günlük hedefleriyle konuşulabilir hale geliyor. İkincisi çalışanların bilgi ve deneyimi merkeze alınıyor. Ekipler veriyi okumayı, analiz etmeyi ve kendi çözümlerini tasarlamayı bu sayede ele alıyorlar ve değişimin sahipliği doğal olarak çalışanlara geçiyor. Üçüncüsü de hızlı kazanımlara odaklanılıyor. Yüksek yatırımlar yerine davranış değişikliği ve küçük fakat sürekli iyileştirmeler esas alınıyor. Sustainate'in 8 adımlı yapısı, hedef koyma, veri toplama, analiz, çalışanlarla tasarım atölyeleri, görsel yönetim, düzenli gözden geçirme toplantıları ve yıl sonu değerlendirmeleri, kutlamaları ile birlikte fabrikada hem disiplinli bir yönetim mekanizması kuruyor hem de motivasyonu sürekli canlı tutuyor. Az önce de bahsettiğim üzere bizim de sahada gördüğümüz bu dönüşüm ihtiyacını karşılayan Sustainate modeli zaten dünyada oldukça bilinir bir model. Bunun Türkiye'de ölçeklenmesini de oldukça önemsiyoruz. Avrupa'da ve dünyada kendini zaten valide etmiş bu modelin pilot uygulamasını özel imkanlardan yararlanarak yapmak isterseniz ekibimize MEXT'e sustainability@mext.org.tr e-mail adresine her zaman ulaşabilirsiniz. Bugün temel olarak bir girizgah yapacağız bu modele ama daha detay öğrenmek isterseniz dediğim gibi bize ulaşabilirsiniz. Artık webinarımıza geçelim. Webinarımız İngilizce olacak. Ancak soru cevaplar duyuruda da belirttiğimiz üzere Türkçe olacak. Dolayısıyla sorularınızı Türkçe olarak sorabilirsiniz. Halil Bey ve Ergün Bey Türkçe konuşabiliyorlar ama genel anlatımı Ian yapacak. Hazır yeri gelmişken onları da tanıtayım. Cambridge University Institute for Manufacturing, yani IfM olarak geçiyor kısaca. Ticari İşler Direktörü Ian Bamford, Sanayi Danışmanı Halil Bedevi ve araştırma uzmanı Doktor Ergün Güngör bugün konuşmacılarımız. Önce kendilerini ve enstitülerini kısaca tanıtacaklar. Sonra üretim sektörünün sürdürülebilirlik dönüşümü, iş performansı ve çalışan bağlılığı konusunda bilgilendirme yapacaklar. En sonunda da Sustain programını tanıtarak sonrasında da soru ve cevap seansına geçeceğiz. Yaklaşık 50 dakika ile 70 dakika arasında webinarımızı toparlayıp bitirmeyi hedefliyoruz. Ama az önce de belirttiğim gibi tüm sorularınız için sonrasında bizle temasa geçebilirsiniz. Kendileri de belirtecektir muhtemelen. Sunumu paylaşacağız. Dolayısıyla not alma konusuyla daha az ilgilenebilirsiniz. Şimdi şimdi izninizle İngilizceye geçiyorum. Now I will switch to English. Ian, Halil, and Ergün. Welcome to MEXT Sustainability Services Webinar Series. It's great to have you here. We have been speaking to pilot your services for a while, and I believe that this event will be very beneficial to introduce the Sustain program and service. After a quick introduction of yourselves and the institution, you can go through the Sustain value proposition. You can start. Thank you.
Yusuf, thank you very much for that introduction. And I have to say, we're all delighted to be here. Even Ergun, who I think is having some difficulty getting in. But if I can introduce myself, I'm Ian Bamford. I've been the founder of the Sustain program with some of my colleagues at Cambridge. And my job is not generally as an academic. My job is taking things out into the real world and making sure that research is useful to industry. I have a long career in working in industry. I did my first factory transformation work for Philips more than 30 years ago now. And I have been lucky enough to visit many factories in the time I've now been at Cambridge, which is just over 15 years. My knowledge about this particular program and about how and what makes for effective factory transformation, sustainability, and factory performance is based on many years of experience, as well as the benefit of working with experienced and effective research specialists such as Dr. Ergun Güngör. So that's my background. You'll hear a bit more about me, I'm sure, as we go on. I'm sorry, I don't speak any Turkish. If I speak too fast, please let somebody know and they will tell me to speak more slowly. Thank you. Halil.
Thank you, Ian. Hello, everyone. I'm Halil Bedevi. Herkese merhaba. I'm an industrial associate at the Institute for Manufacturing here at the University of Cambridge. My background-wise, I'm a chartered industrial engineer, a manufacturing specialist. I worked in manufacturing for 30 years. My experience is in engineering, manufacturing operations, strategy, and international trade. And I work for very small companies, medium size, as well as the big ones like the Airbus and so on. And I've done some consulting. As well as working with Cambridge, I work under the brand of Manufacturing IQ. I work as a consultant, fractional executive, non-executive director, and board advisor, helping manufacturing companies to connect, improve their performance, and grow and succeed in the UK and globally. And my work, I work with industry, government, and academia. Nice to be here. I look forward to the rest of the webinar. Over to Dr. Ergün Güngör.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ergün, and I'm actually Turkish as well, even though now doing this in English. I have an environmental engineering degree from Çukurova University in Adana. After that, I came to UK for my higher education, did a master's and PhD here in the field of resource efficiency very broadly. And then I went back to Turkey to teach mainly, I would say, more than research. And in 2022, I decided to come back to Cambridge to do some more interesting stuff. We've been working with different companies on different projects. My my focus has been, as I said, mainly around resource efficiency. So I'm an action researcher. I like going inside factories, finding problems and trying to find solutions. It's not always very easy, but I like doing that. And recently we have been working with sandwich factory on gamification projects. So we gamify their whole business, and that yielded some interesting results. And one of my hats was actually working with Ian on the sustainability program as a facilitator. And we did the project, we did the program in multiple factories together, and we would like to share some of those insights today here with you. So thank you very much for joining.
Halil, I think.
Thank you again. Yeah, thank you very much. So, so I'm covering the next two sections. In the first one, I'll tell you a little bit about the University of Cambridge, who we are, how we work, what we do, and our team, and then also cover the top manufacturing sustainability challenges. So start with the University of Cambridge. University of Cambridge is a world-leading university with reputation for excellence. I would like to mention 4 facts. It's one of the oldest universities in the world. It's 800 years old, over 800 years old, and it's been at the forefront of academic study and research since 1209. Second one is that it's produced an extraordinary number of Nobel Prize winners. Cambridge affiliates, that students, staff, and ex-students, alumni, have won over 120, I think it's actually 121 Nobel Prizes. Number 3 is many of history's greatest thinkers studied or worked here. Cambridge has been home to legendary figures such as Isaac Newton, Charles Darwin, Stephen Hawking. And finally, Cambridge has been associated with numerous discoveries and achievements. Some groundbreaking scientific discoveries were made here by people who studied or worked here. Examples include discovery of the electron, splitting of the atom for the first time, discovery of the structure of the DNA, and Frank Whittle, the inventor of the jet engine, was at Cambridge. And finally, Dawn, the most powerful AI supercomputer in the UK, was built at Cambridge by Cambridge in collaboration with Intel and Dell. And I'm hearing that it's about to get 6 times more powerful very soon. So that's exciting. So what's on offer from Cambridge? Obviously, Cambridge is a university, so you can expect the usual degree and higher degree programs. But there's lots for the industry in areas such as research and publications, technology, strategy, policy, and people development in terms of professional education, professional and executive education and development. So our team is IfM Engage. We are part of Institute for Manufacturing, which is part of Department of Engineering. So tiny bit about who we are and what we do. So Department of Engineering is the largest department at the university and one of the leading centers of engineering in the world. It aims to address the world's most pressing challenges with science and technology. So Institute for Manufacturing focuses on manufacturing. It creates and develops and deploys new insights into management, technology, and policy. And we strive to be partner of choice for businesses and policymakers as they enhance manufacturing processes, improve their systems and supply chains to deliver sustainable economic growth through productivity and innovation. Finally, IfM Engage team. We are a team of industry practitioners, not academics, although we do interact with the academics. We interact with the academics, of course, and the industry. That's the main point of us being here, to help the industry. We are a knowledge transfer consulting company within the Institute for Manufacturing, and our mission is to knowledge transfer, helping people and organizations we work with to develop their capability and build the future of manufacturing. So we transfer and integrate world-leading knowledge and approaches and solutions emerging from or developed at the IfM department to make a lasting difference to the future of manufacturing and wider ecosystem. The services are delivered by expert practitioners, as Ian mentioned. Now, how we do that is that we partner with organizations across industry, a bit like a consulting company, also government and academic institutions around the world to support them in solving the complex challenges. We are trusted and work with some of the world leading organizations, including multinationals, small and medium-sized companies, and also early stage ventures. There are lots of things available. There is no time to go through all of them, but you will have access to the link and you can look through them. But we offer things like Sustain 8, which we'll talk about shortly, things like automation, road mapping, strategy, innovation, supply chain. There are lots of things available for industry through the team. So today we're focusing on one small but very important element of sustainability. It's how to put this in practice and make things happen in a factory environment. Please get in touch to discover what's available and contact us through LinkedIn or email links that we'll be providing to you. So that's a little bit about us. Sorry for going fast because you know, we have limited time, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of an overview of who we are, what we do, which is maybe a bit different to you know, what's norm. So just following on before I hand over to Ergun and Ian, I would like to just cover a few things about the top manufacturing sustainability challenges, just a high-level overview. Now, decarbonization and sustainability are two of the current mega trends and mega challenges. As manufacturers, of course, we are concerned with sustainable, green and clean manufacturing, and which means making products in ways that are cleaner, so environmentally responsible, less polluting and less damaging to the planet, as well as being sustainable, which means we can keep things going or sustained over a long term. So reduce resource efficiency becomes very important. So we use less materials and energy, and we won't run out for longer. One crucial point to remember in all this is that all this must be economically viable, meaning achieved in such a way that makes economic sense. Why? Because profitability and competitiveness is a must-have for manufacturing businesses, and in fact all businesses, to exist and survive. Without that, there won't be any businesses anywhere. So we'll look at things from a different angle, with or from a different through a different lens. This is practical approach which the industry needs and can relate to. So why is sustainability and clean green manufacturing important, and why are we talking about it? Ian, just checking, am I broadcasting? I've disappeared from the screen. Is everything okay? Everybody can hear me? Yeah, great.
Yes,
okay.
we can hear you.
Fantastic. Sorry, I'll carry on. So why is sustainability and clean green manufacturing important, and why are we talking about it? The reality is that, of course, planet and resources are finite. So polluting and using everything up without having alternatives and running out it is not only morally wrong, it's economically and environmentally irrational in the long term. We have no choice but to embrace sustainability and clean green manufacturing. So here comes three challenges I'd like to mention. First one is that we live in a VUCA world. This is VUCA, stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. As we all know, there's geopolitical instability, conflicts and inflation, fragility, costly supply chains, economic wars, trade wars, and real wars and conflicts, unfortunately. These conditions make green transition harder, riskier, and slower, but not less necessary. There are, of course, hard trade-offs. Countries and regions compete with one another. They need to juggle things like defense and security with economic growth, and also with planetary limits and sustainability and environment. Companies, on the other hand, must make profits to exist. So they need to balance profits and competitiveness with sustainability and environment and planet. Consumers, they're interested in price and affordability, the performance of things they buy, the quality of things they buy, convenience, and of course, planet and environment. So these tensions explain why some players who see sustainability as a cost and hindrance and a disadvantage try to get away with it for as long as possible and delay in their journey. So for some countries and companies, going for sustainable manufacturing can still be technically optional, but it can be profitable. Sustainable manufacturing can be actually a source of competitive advantage and profitability. The problem is not lack of technology or awareness. It's political, economic, and systemic. Challenge number 2 is the trade-offs, how to balance economic, environmental, and sustainability. So how to balance the triple imperative, the 3 Ps sometimes it's called, the people, profit, and planet, and deal with the geopolitics at the same time. These are quite kind of big challenges for companies. So making sustainable choice as a default business advantage is difficult. You know, people need to deal with regulations, trade wars, different pressures from public and different countries, changes in technology, dealing with fast change in technology, cost and competitiveness. So that's the trade-offs is the second biggest challenge, you know, how to balance all that's happening around them. The third challenge is companies need to know and decide what to do, when to do these, how to do them, and how much to do, whilst still remaining competitive and profitable. And it's not so easy to do. There are some examples of companies being profitable and you know, using these in good ways. Industries-wise, steel, aluminium sector, PET plastics, lead-acid batteries, and other clothing and electronics are being recycled or remanufactured. Things like HP, Hewlett-Packard, remanufacturing printer cartridges, Caterpillar and Renault, engines and other automotive parts, Philips medical imaging systems. There's Apple and Dell and Adidas remanufacturing IT equipment and sportswear. So it is possible, and especially when the materials are high value and there are energy savings and there are systems to reliably collect and convert and reuse and recycle these materials. It also matters what the competitors are doing. If everybody is doing something, it doesn't become a disadvantage. But as I said, if people lead on these things, they can turn them into advantage and lead and you know, make money out of it. So in terms of how it works in practice, obviously technology is helping to make recycling cheaper and more possible. Design is a very important element to start early at the design stage And as I said, leading and not following, looking at innovations, inventions, and early adoption. Policy is very important. We have the right policies to make being green possible and profitable. And the system, we must design the system so that it helps to bring it all together, to make sustainability a competitive advantage. So we need to make being green easier, more profitable, and an advantage. So this means embracing the vision for what's called competitive sustainability. Competitive sustainability designs out the prevailing tension or the conflict between growth, profitability, and sustainability. That's the crucial three elements to get right. So the solution is clear, but not so easy to achieve. Enablers, one of the biggest enablers is world order and peace, and having a rules-based, a fair system where everybody can follow. And we all know that that is a very challenging. I'll leave you with just 4 points to close off. Health, environment, and climate change do not recognize countries, borders, power, profit, and greed, and they do not care who's winning. So number 2 is, if we compete against one another instead of against climate change, we'll lose and climate disaster will win. Without countries acting together, design, determination, and sustained effort, sustainability will be selective, it will be limited, it will be slow, and possibly unfair and too late. And net zero will remain a distant pipe dream. Finally, economic competitiveness and conflicts divide. Perhaps sustainability and planet will one day unite the world. Thank you very much. I'll leave it there. Over to Yusuf Bey, or over to Ian rather. Yeah, Ian, please, over to you to talk to us about sustainability, business performance, and workforce engagement. Thank you very much. I'll see you at the Q&As in Turkish.
Thank you, Halil. You've laid the ground very nicely, thinking about the large picture and the challenges that we all face. I'm going to share my screen because there are some things I'd like to share. So let me just put that in place, and we'll go from there. So, no, that's not the right thing.
We can see the screen, Ian.
You could see the right thing. Okay, fine.
Yes, but in the middle of the presentation, not the beginning slide.
Okay, yes,
Right.
that's where I wanted to take us to. So, okay, let's start with this then, and I will just make it simple. So, I've taken the agenda from where we've reached so far. So there are really 4 things that I'd like to, with Ergun, talk about. One is this idea of sustainability, business performance, and workforce engagement. How do these things fit together? Then we'll go on and talk about the impact. So it's those things that create Sustainate, the impact that we've had, and some ability to see the potential that it provides. Then how it works, how it can be deployed. And then finally, I'll take you through a couple of case studies in a bit more detail so that you can understand the reality of what it looks like for people who have been on this journey so far. Finally, after that, we'll open up for a question and answer session. So please do put in questions or write down questions ready for that session at the end. I hope you'll have plenty to think about. So first of all, sustainability and business performance and workforce engagement. We see these things as really being the core of successful sustainability deployment. Most factories that I have come across struggle with the same sort of things. Sustainability feels like a extra work, extra cost. So it can often be resisted or pushed back. Change generally is something that is resisted irrespective of what sort of change it is, particularly when it's being imposed on the workforce of a factory. And as a result of that resistance, good initiatives end up fading away and having far less impact over the long term than we all expect. In my job, I get to visit and speak to many, many companies. In the past year, I've spoken to 70 leaders of companies, people working in those companies, and the sort of things that I'm hearing, are that when I talk to brand sustainability directors, people who are trying to make their supply chain change, what I hear is that the initiatives that they're pushing, that they're requesting are put in place by their suppliers are not working. They are struggling to get impact. And even if they can convince and get impact with the leadership of the suppliers that they have, when the programs try and hit the workforce and get implemented, they are struggling and rarely getting the effect that they have expected or paid for. When I talk to the chief executives and the manufacturing leaders in the companies, they tell me that they see sustainability as a cost. It's a drag on business performance. It takes up time and resources that they don't have, that they've already planned to deploy in other ways. And anyway, they have this problem that change programs are resisted and quickly tend to lose momentum. So they aren't quite so keen on necessarily taking up the opportunities that are being presented to them by their brands or their other group leading. From the local sustainability leaders, I hear actually they're having to spend a lot of time on measurement and that they don't really have a great deal of access to making impact in the factory itself, or they're arguing their case for expensive additional asset deployment. And when I get down to the workforce, generally they have no idea what sustainability is, but they see it as something else that's being asked to be done on top of the things that they're already doing, and they can't really see why they would do that. The question we asked some time ago is, what if these sort of sustainability improvements in the factory didn't depend on the management and the brand trying to push things into the way an operation works, but instead the people in the factory were pulling those changes in because they were things that they recognize they want to do. So if you look at the chart, the diagram I've got here, we generally see sustainability and business performance pulling in different directions, trying to achieve different goals, and as a result, the workforce, who could be aligned behind this, are confused. They're not sure what they would expect to do or why sustainability is something they should participate in. And those tensions mean that not very much tends to happen, or when it does happen, it's difficult. So what we set about doing, sorry, I seem to have lost my sharing. So are you still able to see the slides?
Yes, we are seeing, but not the full screen.
Okay.
Not in the slideshow mode, so we can see the small ones on the left. So you need to maybe
I'm
share.
sorry. I don't know what's happened. Let me try going back.
That's fine now. It's okay now, Ian.
All right, fine. So what we've been able to build with Sustain 8 is what we call a Cambridge bridge. Cambridge is famous for having many bridges across its small river. And one of them that's shown here is called the mathematical bridge. And we use this as a representation of the way in which the program that we have designed and have implemented works to align the thoughts and expectations around sustainability with business performance and an effective engagement of the people who are working in the factory. So by bringing all of these three things together, what we find we're able to do is make change happen at a different sort of pace, It happens because the people on the shop floor have been engaged in participating in the program. So they are now the people who are driving the activities, they're finding the activities, they're making the changes, and they are fully aligned behind what they're trying to do. They become motivated because they understand what the benefits of these sort of programs are, not only for the factory they work in, but importantly in their own expectations around change in the environment, both natural and their communities, that come by making improvements that they work on that are sustainable. That impact and that building of those teams and those relationships takes pressure away from the operation of the stress on some of the leaders at varying levels in the factory, who are then able to focus more specifically on other tasks, knowing that there are improvement teams in place who are effectively driving these things for themselves. The upshot of this is that when I talk to people at the end of these programs, when I talk to leadership in factories, they are really pleased with the sort of performance improvement that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But more importantly, although they've seen dramatic business and sustainability improvement, it's the people changes that they are most excited by. And that's because the people that they have used principally in order to simply carry out tasks within the factory process, are now using more of their capabilities. They've been enabled and trained to be able to understand how to use data. They've been enabled and trained how to work together, to collaborate across different silos within the factory, across different parts of the factory, in order to run programs that are effective and programs that make change happen incrementally, a small percentage point here and there, but continuously, so that the total of what they're doing becomes really effective. And these people are excited by the fact that they've been given a voice, they've been given the permission to get on and do things themselves. They're able to use their knowledge and experience about what really happens in detail in their manufacturing environment and identify and change some of the things that all of them at different times will have seen as being important or useful things that could have been done but have never been changed so far. The excitement that they have as teams is really contagious, and that spreads through into the management and starts to change not only the culture of the team, but the culture of the people around them, because the shop floor, the workforce are better able and find it easier to trust their peers and their colleagues when engaging and participating in programs, and it builds more trust between the leadership and the workforce. And these things all are really, really difficult things to achieve when you're doing transformation programs. This is one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting program I've worked on in over 30 years, in that it actually makes change happen in a much easier way than I've ever seen. So what do we actually see? What's the impact that this program is providing? So we've talked a bit about the people, but let me give you more of an idea about where we've been operating and the sort of things we're doing, because you cover yourselves cover many different sectors. You'll come from many different sorts of manufacturing operations, and I think it's helpful to explain that we've seen this operate in a wide range of places. So far, this program's deployed in 35 factories. This year, we'll add another 6 or 7 to that, so we'll be into our 40s. We cover 7 different sectors. I've listed 4 to the right here, but we cover others as well. Operating out of Italy, France, Spain, Bangladesh, and Kenya and Malawi. So we're operating in some very different types of cultural environments, and we found that the program is just as effective and can be tailored just as well to have the same results, whether you're operating in a tea factory in the Kenyan heights, or whether you're operating in an advanced metals company in central Italy. The program runs on specific focus areas, and so far we've worked on 54 different focus areas, and we have a team of 12 people who we deploy into these factories in order to run those programs. The focus areas we mostly work on are around energy. So we're looking at how and in what ways factories can reduce their energy requirements, whether that's in electricity or gas or oil or coal or even wood. We are able to deploy and identify energy improvements. Materials, where we're looking at how and in what way can you reduce the amount of waste that's produced in the process of manufacturing, but also how can you get better control over the way in which you schedule and purchase materials in. And we've had good success in those areas as well. We've only recently started to get into water, but we have some very exciting results in water treatment plants, which are typically a key part of many large manufacturers. And finally, we work on the rework side, looking at how and in what ways quality can be improved across the process. Overall, you can see that there are a range of different types of production that we're operating on. I won't talk you through all of those, but the program itself has made thousands, if not close to tens of thousands of small improvements in every one of those places, in every one of those programs. What does that look like overall? Well, this is a bit of a chart. This is looking at 21 teams that we operated in 7 factories in the last couple of years. And you can see here the sector, but most importantly, the targets that were set. So the company set targets for improvement for the teams that are being set up to run, and the actual performance. And the net of all of this is that across those 21 teams, the average performance improvement was 28%. That's pretty significant. And there's quite a wide range. And you can see in some places we didn't succeed. But in most places, we do extremely well, or we enable the teams to do extremely well. This group of suppliers are all actually in one supply chain, working or providing providing products for a luxury fashion brand. To give you an idea of the financial view of this, then the cost benefits have been between 45,000 and 110,000 euros in these different places, in these different individual areas of improvement. And that's in the first year. That's in the year in which we've been working in the factory. Most of these are tier 1 factories. We're now moving much more into tier 2. And as we're doing that, we're seeing the level of improvement, the value as a cost benefit starting to come in much more significantly, so that we've got somewhere we're expecting 300,000 euros to be saved in the first year. So that's a bit of an insight into what the productivity side looks like. If I just give you a quick idea, because these are individual factories, but principally what we tend to be working on is supply chains. So if we take 3 brands that we've been working with across these, they are generally looking to change 30 to 40 of their key suppliers. So they're identifying that actually, if I'm going to have a strong impact on the scope 3 performance, on the relationship building that I have with my key suppliers, these programs can enable that to happen. And not only do they start to build those relationships, but because they're able to get the benefits or see the benefits that are being provided in those suppliers, they're also able to share in some of the cost benefits. So that is driving from the brand point of view. It's also helping to drive a cost performance or a price performance benefit as well. And you can see there are three brands, three very different ways of going about scaling this. The first one took on and trained the factory staff in the factories that we worked with them first off, and then they redeployed the trained people into other factories so that they could take the message and the program out and deploy it elsewhere. The second one took their brand factory engineering team and trained them so that they could then take the factory engineering team and put them temporarily into different suppliers and help those suppliers go through the transformation. And finally, the third one chose to embed some of their specialists into our teams so that our teams continued to run the programs, but their cost came down as they replaced our consulting specialists with some of their own, and their skills and so on, their skill levels built. So there are different ways of doing this, but effectively this is something that as a brand, if you're a brand representative, can be something that has a really powerful deployment capability as well. So what is it we're talking about? How do we actually create this program? What is it that works, that makes this happen? Well, we've built something that's very simple because it has to be understood by people in the workforce who may have limited education and limited experience outside of their own roles. But it's also very hard because it involves changing behaviors, and changing behaviors, as I'm sure you have experienced, is one of the most difficult things to do. So the simple way to explain it is we bring people from across the factory together to operate as a team. So they are now brought from a range of different backgrounds and working as a functional team, focusing on a particular area of the factory, let's say electricity. We give them a motivation that makes them want to make the change happen. And we do this by using the things they care about. We talk about motivating through care, because if people care about something, generally they are motivated and want to do something about it. So depending on where we are, we identify what it is that the local workforce care about that's to do with sustainability. And that might be to do with the community and the effectiveness and the value that the factory brings to the maintaining and sustaining and developing their community. It might be to do with the environment. It might be to do with the things they see around them that are environmentally challenging, floods or heat waves that are brought about by climate change and people feel no or little ability to do something about. It might be about their views and their desires for the future, but we use that to motivate people, and it's a very powerful tool. Then we teach them how to collect, read, and analyze data so that they can see what other people can see, or what other people often can't see, about the way that their factory works. They can see where the electricity flows. They can see how and where it's important, how and where they could make change and have the most impact. We get them to share their combined know-how and experience. We're not telling people, this is what you should do, this is what we've learned elsewhere, do this. We're asking them to work it out for themselves using the really detailed knowledge that they have about how that particular set of processes in their factory work. And then we let them design and implement the changes themselves. And at the end, the impact that they have is acknowledged and rewarded so that they feel that they have been heard and that their worth is raised. So that's broadly how we do it. We have an 8-step method that takes them through, or takes the factory through, this process. So we start off with data and identifying data with the leadership of the factory. We work with them to identify key themes, key topics that will be important not only for business performance, but also sustainability. So we're trying to do this alignment that we talked about before to make sure that what we're doing is both business and sustainable, important to the leadership. We use the data to help the leadership set targets. That's the goals that we saw earlier. And then we set out to build these teams and engage the workforce. And we asked the leadership to select people to go into those teams with certain characteristics. And we have some tools to help make sure that the people they select are going to be effective. But they are cross-functional teams that we bring together with people who operate on the shop floor, are running machines, people in engineering, people in maintenance, people in purchasing, and so on. They then start to do the analysis, they build the programs, they do the implementation. We help them to build strong visual tools that they can put around the factory so their colleagues know what they're doing. This isn't a secret. We want everyone to be understanding that so that everyone is clear. Everyone feels that they understand and are able to participate and help those teams. We put facilitators alongside those teams and they guide and review them as they go through the process of the 9 months that they're operating in. And towards the end, we work with the leadership to say, how are you going to make this happen? How are you going to make sure this continues once we've walked away, that you are still supporting those teams, that they're going to give you more value in years 2 and 3 and so on. And at the end, we have a hard stop. We check how far we've done, how successful we've been against the targets and the goals, and we celebrate and make sure that this is publicly clear that this is what's been happening. To give you an idea of what we mean when we're talking about tools and data, this is the sort of thing we would analyze. This is looking at a chemical processing, and you can see here that the variability in the performance, this is material yield performance measured week on week, is very variable. And we find this everywhere we go, that when you start to drill into the data for performance on a particular thing, the variability is high. And what we're looking to do is identify, where is that variability good? What are the good days? What's happening when you're getting great performance? And we're looking and helping and encouraging the teams we're working with to go, look at what's happening when it's good. How did you do that? What can you do to repeat it? This is motivational. This is some of the stuff that helps build their desire to want to participate. So we build the baseline, looking backwards. Then we set the target based on a level of performance that isn't the best they've ever done, but is somewhere between the baseline and what they know is they're capable of doing. Then we start the program and the teams form. And you can see here some examples of some of the small actions that were carried out in this chemical process team that started to give them a trend that pushed the performance to significantly improve. And they did these things, they were able to do these things because they were now talking across functions. So the idea of having this regular reporting to the lab on the actual control room performance was something that didn't happen frequently enough. And by bringing that together, they started to understand how to get greater stability in what was going on in the process. And you can see from that point, the variability drops off significantly. And so on. And I won't talk you through each of these, but they work together to identify how and in what ways they can improve the process, they can improve the material use in the process, and they ran trials and were able to start to get really significant improvements. So by the time we got to the end of the program, they were 20% better than their baseline and still on a trend that was improving and would continue to improve beyond that time. So this is to give you an insight into how the program actually works and what it does. What do we provide? So across the 12 months that we typically engage with the factory, we bring together 6 face-to-face workshops where we bring in our facilitators and our specialist team to help, first of all, the leadership in zero in the kickoff and the KPIs. Then by step 4, we're working with the teams, and we put a facilitator into each team. They work very closely to help them to develop the skills, the capability, the confidence to be able to run and be effective as a team. And as well as coming back and visiting them, we work with them online about every 2 weeks in order to keep their progress and to clear and ensure that if they have challenges, those challenges are being dealt with effectively. So that's the how we go about it. Finally, I will give you a couple of case studies, and then I'll open this up for a wider conversation. So the first of the case studies is looking at a shoe factory. So this is a shoe factory where they were able to reduce their electricity use by 22%. So that, in practical terms, that was reducing about just under 12 tons of CO2 per month, saving 40,000 kilowatt hours, and from a cost point of view, just over 8,000 euros a month. So the performance was strong financially from a sustainability point of view as well. The sort of example of the things that the teams were working on. So this was one team of about 6 or 7 people working in the factory on electricity only, working across a nine line operation. So one of the things that they looked at was the use of compressed air. So compressed air was a major tool for driving the equipment within the factory. What they identified was that the routines for management and setup and operation of those compressors was not well structured, hadn't been properly thought through and set out, and there were a lot of leaks that were not being picked up and dealt with. So very simple things. They worked on what would be the optimum routines. They put those in, they put them down as a standard operating process, and made sure that therefore the efficiency of the operation of the compressors was much more effective. They built in a schedule for checking for leaks so that everyone had that built into, who was involved or close to a place where leaks took place, was involved in looking for and actively flagging and ensuring that leaks were fixed. And they made sure that the pressure setup for the compressors was optimized. They also, by putting these things together, fairly straightforward things, but things you'd expect might have been dealt with, but typically, and I've worked with a lot of factories who use compressed air, these are the things that come back time and time again. They are things that have not been dealt with or not been picked up and not continuously picked up. So the second part of this was looking at their understanding at an operator level of whether or not the way in which they were setting up and running their equipment was really effective. Operators didn't understand anything about the level of or type of use of electricity of the machinery they have, because they can't see electricity. So how would they see it as an important thing compared to product? We gave them the ability, or the teams gave them the ability, to understand what that looked like, and then they gave them a checklist. They worked with the team, the individual operators, to say, how and what is it would you do that would make that more efficient? And so they built checklists with the operators, so they owned the checklist. So they knew what it was they were going to do to make sure that they minimized the amount of energy that was being used by their machine, whilst at the same time having no impact on quality or throughput. And then they also instigated the operators getting together every week in order to track their progress. So once a week, the operators would spend 10 or 15 minutes on a Monday or a Tuesday morning, and they would get together and talk about how they were doing and whether they'd spotted other things that they could work on. So again, this is all about people. It's about the way in which the behavior of people work. So I can get into more detail on this if you'd like to, but in the interest of having Q&A, I'll just get onto one more example. So this is a high variety, high quality metals specialist doing a lot of metals coating with high value gold, silver, platinum, and so forth. And they wanted to improve their rework performance. They were having some challenges around quality, and that was impacting their performance to time, as well as the actual cost of having to push more through the process. And their right first time when we came in and started measuring it properly was just under 92%. They set a goal of getting it to 94%, and by the time we'd run the program, we'd got it to 97%, and it's still, I know this factory well, it's still improving now. One of the key things we always find with rework is that the data quality and the understanding of data as it affects the rework and the performance of the process is rarely effectively used. Either there's too much data and nobody can work out what to do with it, or the data is the wrong data and it's not actually telling a story or providing information. Here, there was a lack of prioritization of the data and too many things for the various individuals on the line to try and monitor. So they spent quite a lot of time being really clear about what are the critical things that are happening that are impacting the quality, and let's dig into and understand behind that where and in what ways we can make improvements that can be understood clearly by each of the people handling and processing a particular product. They worked out exactly what those things needed to be, and then they gave the staff much clearer instructions about what they needed to do at their workstations in order to mitigate some of the small things that were happening that were working, and they made sure that everyone got daily feedback on their performance. There were a number of other things that were done around here as well, but a lot of the challenge was about handling, and what they were able to do is significantly change the handling routine. So again, it's down to human behavior. So I'll stop at that point and throw this open for Q&A. I hope that this has been a helpful insight into the sort of things that we're able to do, and that we can find something that we can work with you on as well. Thank you. I'll drop the share at this point.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Ian. I will switch to Turkish. Soru cevap için dilediğiniz soruyu sorabilirsiniz. Başta da belirttiğim üzere Halil Bey ve Ergün Türkçe cevap verecekler. Daha öte bir cevap gerekirse Ian da destek olacak ve anında translation yapacağız. Siz sorularınızı derleyene kadar benim birkaç ufak sorum var. Çoğunlukla zaten altıda çizildi. Sustainate programının nerelerde, hangi sektörlerde uygulanabilirliğine dair, ama birazcık da zaman planı ve şirketin ayır gereken kaynaklar neler bu süreç içerisinde? Çünkü genelde böyle programlarda özellikle üst yönetim olsun, yöneticiler bu konuya da çok dikkat ediyor. Hem maddi olarak hem insan kaynağı eforu olarak nasıl bir kaynak ayrılması gerekiyor? Önce Halil Bey'e dinleyelim. Sonrasında Ergün de çeşitli eklemelerini yapacaktır.
Teşekkür ederim. Aslında bunu en iyi Ian belki cevaplayabilir. Zaman ayrımı çok fazla değil aslında. Çünkü bu orada çalışanlar fasilite oluyor. Onlar yapıyor işi. Tam rakam olarak Ian, can I ask you, the question is, what sort of time commitment does the company need to have to implement Sustainate? I think you're probably best to give us some numbers, unless Ergun, you can chip in with that really, and maybe sort of slip in at that point what type of businesses we work with, and you mentioned some of them, but sadece söylemek isterim ki Sustain 8 sistemi çok çeşitli imalatlar için kullanılabilir. Yani bütün sektörlerde az çok geçerli. Onu ekleyeyim. Ian, do you want to, or Ergün, do you want to?
Yeah, we can have a short answer because we have also a question from the audience.
Sure.
Yes, Ian.
So very quickly, the amount of time. So the sponsor of the program probably needs to be able to put in a few hours, maybe 5 or 6 hours across the first 3 months or so, in order to make sure that they're supporting and attending the key initiatives. Their leadership team might want to participate in a couple of workshops. Again, they're short workshops, maybe a couple of hours each, in order to make sure the choice of topics and the selection of teams is done effectively. Probably there is somebody who will run the program or help run the program in the factory. They might need to allocate perhaps half a day or a day a month in order to make sure that they're providing the leadership to the teams. The teams themselves will normally have a team leader. That person might need to allocate 3 or 4 hours a week to running the team, and the operators, the members of the team, probably 2 hours a week. So those are the sorts of numbers that we generally see.
Okay. Ergün, hem Türkçe'ye çeviri hem de sahadan içgörülerinle soruyu toparlamanı rica edeceğim.
Benim genel olarak gördüğüm çalışanlar bakımından baktığımızda aslında ilk yaklaştığımızda böyle bir heyecan oluyor. Dolayısıyla üst yönetimin belirli saat, işte Ian'ın bahsettiği sürelerde bir saat koyabilmesi gerekiyor proje için. Ama çalışanlar konusunda ilk etkileşim esasında biraz daha bir commitment gerekiyor. Daha sonra bu belirli bir düzene giriyor. İşte Ian'ın slaytlarında gördüğümüz toplantılardan öncesinde o yoğunluk artıyor. Daha sonra tekrar bir sonraki toplantıya kadar rutin yapmaları gereken dışarısında aşırı bir time commitment gerektirmiyor bence program. En azından mevcut hali hazırda günlük işlerini aksatacak seviyede değil. Onlara paralel bir şekilde ilerleyebilecek düzeyde.
Belki Ian'ın da söylediği rakamları bir altını çizersek, hani üst yönetimin sadece bir yıl boyunca yarım gün, proje liderinin bir ay boyunca gene yarım gün, ama diğer çalışanların da maksimum ayda, işte tabii ki o dönemki gündeme göre de değişebiliyor. Benim anladığım kadarıyla maksimum ayda 2-3 gün
Evet.
olduğunu öngörebiliriz diye bir cevap alıyorum. Aslında senin girdiğin yerden Ergün yakın bir soru var. İngilizcesi şöyle: How do you deal with resistance from your employees, particularly in unionized environments or among long-tenured operators who may be more skeptical of change? Yani değişime karşı dirençli olan, özellikle uzun yıllarını vermiş ve belli bir iş yapış biçimini gütmüş çalışanların dirençliliğine nasıl kırıyorsunuz? Onları bu projeye nasıl dahil ediyorsunuz diye bir soru var. Ergün'den alalım cevabı. Ian, you already hear English version of the question, and then you can contribute to the question answer as well. Evet Ergün.
Benim bu alandaki tecrübem, sürdürülebilirlik alanında bu çok genel bir problem. Farklı seviyelerde, shop floor'dan management seviyesine kadar baktığımızda her alanda bir resistance to change ile karşılaşabiliyoruz. Bu projede farklı olan şeylerden bir tanesi, biz bir çözümle gitmiyoruz. Sadece bir yapı veya bir mekanizma ile gidiyoruz ve insanlardan bu konuda bize destek olmalarını istiyoruz. Normalde mesela işte tipik bir sürdürülebilirlik programına baktığınızda direkt olarak yukarıdan aşağı atık azaltımı, emisyon azaltımı gibi objektifler konuyor. Ama bu program dahilinde azaltabileceğimiz, üzerinde etki yaratabileceğimiz KPI'ları bile birlikte çalıştığımız takımlarla seçip onları sürecin içerisine en baştan dahil edince şimdiye kadar böyle çok ciddi bir seviyede dirençle karşılaşmadık açıkçası.
Hı hı.
Çünkü ownership dediğimiz hani projenin sorumluluğu aslında burada çalışan işçilerde, ki ne kadar uzun zaman çalışırlarsa aslında o kadar iyi. Çünkü bilgi ve tecrübe birikimleri o kadar yüksek oluyor. Genel olarak sunumlara baktığımızda çok fazla mesela bir CO2 veya emisyonlar üzerinde vurgu yoktu. Bunun sebeplerinden bir tanesi de bunun iletişimi çok daha zor çalışanlarla. Göremedikleri, üzerinde çok kolay etki o yapamayacakları, etki yaratamayacakları bir şey istiyormuşsun gibi oluyor. Fakat bizim çalıştığımız KPI'lere baktığımızda bunlar üzerinde çok daha fazla kontrolleri var. Ve ne zaman kullandığımız malzeme miktarını azaltırsak, enerji miktarını azaltırsak, atık miktarını azaltırsak, bu zaten bizim sürdürülebilirliğimizi olumlu etkilediği için o sorunu bu şekilde çözüyoruz. Yani ownership'i birlikte çalıştığımız ekiplere vererek.
Evet. Bir katkı koymak istiyorum.
Tabii ki, buyurun.
Bu genel olarak tabii resistance to change dediğimiz değişime karşı direnç, endişe, korku her yerde olabiliyor. Bunun miktarı yere ve o an olan kültüre göre değişiyor tabii. Bazı yerlerde daha fazla, daha az olabiliyor. Onlara güven vermek gerekiyor. Kazancı anlatmak, açık olarak neden yapıldığını, rekabet ve kaçınılmaz oluşunu anlatıp açıkça onlarla beraber çalışmak gerekiyor ve bunun sadece böyle kendi başına yapılan bir proje değildi. İşin bir parçası olmasını sağlamak gerekiyor ve çalışanların bu yararları görüp onların bir parçası olmasını sağlıyoruz. Öyle olunca herkes daha bir rahatlıyor, pay koyuyor ve çok daha daha gidiyor işler. Teşekkürler. Ian?
Harika.
I'm not sure what everyone else has said, obviously, but I'll give you an example, perhaps would be helpful.
Okay.
So, one of the factories that we worked in, there was quite a lot of skepticism about the program, about whether to carry it out from the people on the shop floor. The secret was to make sure that in selecting the teams who were going to participate in the program, there was at least one skeptical person in each team. So they weren't excluded, they were drawn into the team to participate. They then bring their skepticism, they put it on the table at the beginning of the program and say, okay, but I'm not sure that I really believe in this as a solution. They worked through with the team so they can see everything that's going on. It's important that they see that the team is properly supported, that the leadership of the factory really mean that they're going to give them the ability to do it themselves. They get to actually talk about the things, the skeptics and everyone else, that they've seen and that they don't believe anyone will ever do anything about. That's often what it is. I don't believe anyone's ever done this in the past. Nobody's listened to me. Why should I believe you? When they see that that starts to happen, they become less skeptical. And when they see that it continues to happen over the course of a number of months, then their skepticism starts to change. And in this particular factory, that's exactly what they did. They had skeptics in every team. At the end, when I came back for the celebration event, the skeptics were the first ones to come up to me and say, I didn't think this would work, but you know what? I'm surprised, but I'm convinced. And like somebody giving up smoking, they became the biggest advocates of the benefits of doing this. So I would say that's my answer.
Yeah, very cool. Ergün, bunu çevirmeni rica edeceğiz senden. Eğer takip ettiysen.
Takip ettim, etmesine de biraz uzun oldu. Kısacası özetleyeyim ben Ian'ın söylediğini. Bir fabrikaya gittiğimizde, örnek verdiği fabrikada bu projenin aslında bu programın çalışacağına dair en yüksek şüphesi olan insanları projenin dışında bırakmaktansa onların hepsinden birer takıma yerleştirip sistemin nasıl işlediğini bizzat şahit olmaları ve şüphelerini aslında masaya koyup dile getirmeleri takımların da yararına oluyor. Dolayısıyla onları da bir şekilde giderebiliriz o şüpheleri ve projenin sonunda da bu insanlar hani ilk başta inanmasalar da sonuç olarak rakamları gördüklerinde, gelişimi, değişimi gördüklerinde bunun en büyük destekçilerinden biri haline geliyor. Kısaca bu şekilde özetliyorum.
Süper.
İki nokta benim çok dikkatimi çekti bizim de sahada gördüğümüz. Birincisi konunun yukarıdan aşağıya dayatılmasından ziyade aşağıda potansiyelin keşfedilmesi, hedeflerin öyle
Evet.
belirlenmesi ve bütün kültürün, organizasyonun onun içine çekilmesi. İkincisi de şüpheyle yaklaşanları, konuya inanmayanları proje dışına bırakmaktansa tam tersi içine alarak onları ikna ederek projenin tüm kurumca kabul edilmesinin sağlanması en önemli iki değer önerisi. Bir
Çok doğru.
sorumuz daha var. Biz de açıkçası Nurdan Kabacıoğlu hanımefendi sormuş. Biz de ilk dinlediğimizde biz yaklaşık 2 yıldır görüşüyoruz bu programı. Aynı soruları sormuştuk. O yüzden çok haklı ve yerinde bir soru. Önce Türkçesini soracağım, sonra İngilizcesini. Yine aynı sırayla belki Ergün, Halil Bey ve Ian'ın katkılarıyla toparlayabiliriz. Şöyle diyor özetle, hani bu Sustainate programını sürdürülebilirlik ve yalın üretim prensiplerinin bir birleşimi olarak görebilir miyiz? Bunu böyle bir referans olarak alabilir miyiz diye sormuş. In English, can we describe Sustainate as a system that combines sustainability and lean manufacturing requirements? What approaches, standards does the program reference diye Nurdan Hanım'ın sorusu. Yine aynı sıralamayla az önce dediğim gibi Halil Bey ile başlayalım. Halil Bey, bu sizce de
Evet.
sürdürülebilirlik ve yalın üretimin bir kombinasyonu mu yoksa başka bir yaklaşım diyebilir miyiz?
Evet, yani dediğimiz gibi bu genelde şey teorik olarak bakıldığında basit bir sistem, lojik bir sistem. Yani akla yakın çok bir şeyi yok. Yalnız continuous, devamlı gelişimi, lean, change and improvement, bunların hepsini kapsıyor. Ve önemli olan bunları tatbik etmek. Yani teorik olarak değil de tatbikte bunları şeye geçirmek zor bir şey. Yani çok yer yapmıyor. Yahut yaptığını sanıyor ve yapmıyor. Onun için bu bir sistem, yani bunu fasilite eden ve gerçekleştirebilecek bir sistem. Onun iyiliği bu. E, Ve evet, benim diyeceğim bu. Yani günün sonunda sonuçları ne verirse, ne çalışırsa o bir yer için iyi. Yani bunun teorik yapıp çok karıştırmak, komplekse çevirmeye bir neden yok yani. Onun için onu tamam yapmak lazım. Bir de bazı yerler diyor ki biz bunu yapıyoruz, bizim işte mühendislerimiz var, işte takımımız var falan. Ama her yerde daha da ileri gidebilir, götürülebilir. Onun için bütün konu o orada. Teşekkürler.
Çok teşekkürler. Ergün?
Ben genel olarak o söyleme katılıyorum. Hani Sustainate'in
Evet.
sürdürülebilirlik ve yalının bir buluşma noktası olduğunda ikisi içerisinde hem yalın için hem sürdürülebilirlik için önemli öğeler içeriyor ve bunları bir araya getiriyor. Bazı noktalarda özellikle bu kültürel yaklaşım konusunda bence Sustainate biraz daha az mekanik bir sistem içeriyor. Yani bizim sahaya gitmemiz, insanları motive etmemiz falan normal yalın yaklaşımıyla kıyaslandığında işte bunlar atıklar, bunları çıkacağız, arayacağız, gemba yapacağız neyse. Biraz daha böyle personal, hani kişisel bir duygusu var açıkçası genel olarak programın. Ama yani hem yalında iyi olup da bunu henüz sürdürülebilirliğe uygulamamış çok da firma var. Mesela en güzel bunu iyi yapanlardan bir tanesi Toyota. Toyota Yalı'nın çıkış sistemi ve yaklaşık son 15-20 senedir bunu enerji alanında uygulamaya başlamış ve bunun kültürel olarak oturmuşluğunu fabrikaya gittiğinizde çok iyi gözlemleyebiliyorsunuz. Fakat bu demek değil ki orada duruyorlar. Mesela işte enerjiden sonra farklı alanlara geçiyorlar. Şimdi aynı yaklaşımı gidip de yaşam döngüsünün sonuna gelmiş veya işte refurbish yaptıkları araçlarda da uygulamaya başlamışlar. Dolayısıyla hani evet ikisini bir araya çok güzel getiriyor ama ucu açık, gelişmeye müsait bir sistem olarak görüyorum ben.
Ian, you want to contribute anything to this question? You are muted, by the way.
Can you just, I think the question is, how does this differ from lean? Is that close enough? Or have I-
Yes, yes,
Okay.
the second
So,
question.
I would say there are three things that really differentiate it from lean. The first one is it's not prescriptive in the way that it operates, in the way that lean is. Lean has many tools, but the tools are the same. You deploy them in the factory in the same way. What we do is different to that. This is about understanding the culture and the way in which the factory works and building the team capabilities to be right for that particular environment, for that particular culture in that factory or the way of working in that factory. That's a really important difference because we aren't imposing anything. It's being drawn and built by the people. The second thing is that the focus. This is very clearly aligning sustainability, business performance, and engagement of the workforce. And lean doesn't aim to try and do those things. So it's a very big difference. And the third thing, and the biggest thing, is motivation. By using this motivation through care approach to the people who are working in the teams, their adoption, their desire to make this work is entirely different from that you find when implementing lean.
Yeah. Ergün, kısa bir translation çeviri rica edeceğiz.
Genel olarak Ian farklarından bahsetti yanına. Üç noktadan sondan başlayayım. Motivasyon, yalın program olarak uygulandığında fabrikalarda çalışanlar bunu bir ekstra yük olarak görebilir. Aynı motivasyona sahip olmayabilir. Ama bu programda biraz daha farklı ilerliyor. Diğeri Yalın'ın çeşitli tool'ları oldu ve bunların farklı kontekstlerde kültüre, bir fabrikanın kültüründen bağımsız olarak uygulanmaya çalışıldığı yönündeydi. Ama bu programda tam tersi. Bu programda mevcut kültüre biz nasıl adapte edebiliriz şeklinde ters bir yaklaşım var. Üçüncü noktayı tam hatırlayamadım. Yusuf, sen yakalayabildiysen.
Daha preskriptifti, yani daha böyle birçok
Aynen.
reçetenin tool'un olduğu bir yalın, öyle bir yaklaşım. Ama burada daha çok hani müşteri odaklılık, kültüre göre de değişimler, yani
Evet.
esneklik sağlanabiliyor. Sanırım onu tarif etmeye çalıştı Ian. Yani bir şey yok. Sustainate böyle bir program, bir metodoloji ortaya koyuyor ama firmanın ihtiyaçlarına göre, onların o günkü gündemine göre, kültürüne göre, üretim operasyonlarına göre çok rahat esneyebiliyor. Mesela ben ziyaretimde şu dikkatimi çekmişti. Birçok sosyolog da Sustainate uzmanı. Yani sanıyorum o da hani ikiniz, hem Ian'ın hem senin de Ergün verdiğin örnekte insana dokunarak, onları ikna ederek bu programı gerçekleştirmede önemli bir araç oluyor. Başka bir soru yok. Ama dediğim gibi en başta da belirttiğim üzere bize her zaman bu program detayları için ulaşabilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda Halil Bey, Ian ve Ergün Bey'e LinkedIn'den yazabilirsiniz. Kendileriyle ulaşabilirsiniz. Bu programın dediğim gibi dünyada kendini valide etmiş ve ciddi kazanımlar sağlamış bu programın Türkiye'de ölçeklenmesi, burada da kendini göstermesi konusunu ciddi önemsiyoruz. Bu sürdürülebilirlik gündemine ciddi anlamda katkı sağlayacak, ülkemizin geliştirdiği önemli kazanımlardan biri olacağını öngörüyoruz. Katılımınız için çok teşekkür ederiz. Öncelikle katılımcılara 120'den fazla katılımcımız oldu. Sonrasında size Halil, İyan, Ergün değerli katılımlarınız için, katkılarınız için teşekkür ederiz. Umarım bu işbirliğimizin güzel bir başlangıcı olur. Detay isteyen, bu konuda daha fazla bilgi isteyen herkese bizim e-mail adresimiz, telefonlarımız açık. İstediğiniz zaman bu konuyla ilgili sorular sorabilirsiniz. We appreciate your contributions, Ian, Halil, Ergün. So now we are ending our webinar. Teşekkürler herkese. Bir sonraki webinarımızda 2 hafta sonra Salı günü görüşmek üzere. Hoşça kalın.
Çok teşekkürler. Thank you.
Teşekkür
Bye bye.
ederiz.
Bye bye.
Bye.